So I want to start off with, your early musical background growing up. Was music a big part of your life when you were a kid, or did you have a musical family? Did you take lessons? Kind of what was your foundation like?
Well, this is kind of a hard thing to say, but uh, my family were not musical at all. My dad was a truck driver, and my mother and father broke up when I was 4 years old. So I didn't really know my mother. She left. Uh, but I was kind of a little kid, growing up in Farnborough, just outside of London, in England, and I was born with the intense desire to play music. And so what I did, because I didn't have any money, and we're a super poor family. I made my first guitar at the age of 8 from pieces of wood from the garbage, wood and nails, and I made my first instrument. And that instrument, and then the future development of that, which is like buying a proper guitar when I was 12. That is the guitar literally saved my life many times. I, I'll give you an example. I was most of my friends were getting into trouble constantly because it was a kind of a rough area where I grew up. A lot of crime, a lot of wife beating, sort of, drugs and all the rest of it. So I was out to, I used to spend all my time in my room learning records. So I was learning the guitar solo to Highway Star by Deep Purple at the time, and my friends were out robbing a Chinese restaurant. So it kind of, this is an example of how the guitar kept me out of trouble, and because I was so dedicated to it. And that's why this new album that I've just released here in Canada is actually really important for me, because it's essentially all about guitar. The whole album was came through the guitar to me, as songs do. I don't write them; they just come to me, and it came through. And the title track is I was asked to write a song for the acoustic guitar project. It's an international project where they send a guitar all around the world, and every guitar player that gets the guitar gets to keep it for 1 week, and they have to write a song on it and perform it within that week. Well, so this lady brought around the guitar to me, to Roseanne Baker Thornley, actually, she's a friend of mine. She brought the guitar over because the guitar project wanted me to play on it. Uh, so what I took the guitar. I literally in 10 minutes I had this song called "She's My Guitar." I thought I'd write the song about the guitar, and then I had to sign it and then perform the song on video live. And then being as the song was there, I decided to, develop it in the studio and make it into an awesome track. So I did, and then I just thought, well, I'm going to put all the other guitar songs that I've written on the same album. So this is like a special album for me.
And so I guess like that song kind of triggered the whole album to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the songs on the album I'd already written. Like there's one song called "Somebody Wants You" that I actually wrote when I was in my 20s, but it's never been released. So it's a great song. I play it at gigs and people just love it. So it's a total blues guitar song. If you hear it, you know what I mean. So it had to go on this album because everything on this album is really like it's all about guitars. This record. I do play other things. I play bass on all my records and other people's records, and I play drums and keyboards. But this whole album really is created with the guitar.
I wanted to ask you, when you're going to record your own stuff versus other people's, like producing other people's, how kind of do you approach your own, work and to get, the sound that you want out of it? What kind of is your kind of process working on your own stuff?
It's very much it's very much the same process as working on someone else's, because I'm an arranger, producer, and a multi-instrumentalist. So most people I work for, I end up putting the whole thing together anyway. So that's what I do with my records, except for Precious Love, which I released last year. It's got 60,000 views on YouTube. It was I actually got that's one of the few records I actually got some 18 musicians to join in on the record. I've got Bill King play keyboards. Paul, I can't remember his name now. I got a really good drummer to play on it. Got Gene Hardy to play sax on it. So that kind of record, I decided just to go for a live thing. But to answer your question, I normally I take great attention to detail in the arranging. For me, melodic structure is really, really important. It's the way that the chords work with I mean, you can take a mundane melody, and if you structure the music around it in a good way, it can completely change it into like an incredible thing. So I've done that many times, and I love doing that. So that process I use on my own records as well as records that I produce for other people.
And speaking of other people, I want to go back to like the early days of your career. So, what was kind of your world like during that early period before you had, the major success that would follow working with other artists, that beginning period?
Well, they were the kind. I think you're referring to what I call the analog days,
Yeah.
when stuff was done on tape. Well, I got a lot of stories about that. I mean, I'll give you an example. I used to. I was an in-house producer at Tapestry Studios in London. It's a very successful studio, and I made a lot of hit records. My first hit record was Gino by Dexys Midnight Runners. It's #1 for 11 weeks, and I recorded and mixed that record. But big producers used to come into it, and I used to learn from them. Like I worked with Mutt Lange, worked on Def Leppard's album. But one guy, Trevor Horn, I really like. He produced Seal and Frankie Goes to Hollywood and all those great records. He came in one day and said, that I want to put a piano. It came in because we had a Steinway piano, so he came in to record this beautiful Steinway we had in the studio. And he said, right, got the piano player in there. He's an excellent musician. I ran the tape and had it in record because I always used to do that just in case. But while the piano player was playing, I was finding the sweet spot on the EQ, on the desk, right, to make it sound really good. So I got to the end of the take, and I was finally happy after a lot of, sweeping around and everything. And so I said, "Okay, Trevor, I'm ready to record the piano now." And he said, "Oh," I said, "Well, that's the take I want. I want that. That's the one." So, and I said, "But I've been changing EQ all the way through." And he said, "Well, that's your problem. We're going to go out for dinner. And you see if you can fix it, So I had to bounce the piano stereo piano back to a couple of other tracks, and then literally reversed everything I did to get it to sound natural. So that taught me a big lesson in not messing around with performance. If somebody's performing, don't touch anything. Don't start fiddling with the EQ or changing mics and all that stuff. Just the performance is king. That's what sells records. I've learned that. I learned that the hard way, but it stayed with me forever. So, but I don't really miss the analog days. I have to tell you, I spent 6 weeks programming the drums for Pyromania, and then it all had to be done again. So there's another 6 weeks. Analog recording is really painful. I made a couple of records for Mel Brooks, and he couldn't sing in time, so I had to put him on another tape and fly it in word by word, And analog recording is destructive. If you drop in to record too early, you erase what was there before. Now I use Pro Tools now, and it's all non-destructible, which is a dream. It's so much easier. So I don't really miss those the good old days of analog recording. I do miss them. I miss making records with like really fabulous musicians, but I'm still doing that here. My Be Creative album, my Canadian debut album, which was released here in 2014. That's I've got Glenn Milcham, Blue Rodeo's drummers, playing on 10 tracks. Got Rick Emmett from Triumph playing on a couple of tracks. So I still work with the really A team. But on this new album, She's My Guitar, it's really mostly me. There's one or two small guest spots, but the rest of it's all me. And it's all done on Pro Tools, which I love. It's just very creative.
This kind of this album, would you say that it's more of I guess it's kind of like a concept album in some ways about the guitar?
Yeah.
Did you kind of envision that? I know that we talked about, with that first song for the album you had been working on where I can't remember the name of it, but where everyone was doing the one song on the guitar. Did you kind
Oh,
of
so
envision?
uh,
Did you
well,
like
no,
think then it was going to be a concept album as soon as you got the idea to then, start going through other songs that you had written in that? That it was going to be all about
uh,
the guitar?
in fact, it's my wife kind of came up with the idea because, you know, I recorded and mixed the song "She's My Guitar," and I thought I'll put that out as a single. I really like it. It came out really well. And then she sort of said, "Well, you got loads of guitar songs which you never recorded. Why don't you put them all together?" So it's a concept album, but I didn't actually come up with a concept. My wife came up with the concept. She's a documentary filmmaker. So she's got one of those kind of brains that can, you know, see everything. She's a lateral thinker, and I'm a linear thinker. Like most guys are. We go for the goal. We know what we want, and we're going to get it. Where females have the extraordinary ability to look all around and make sure everything's in place. So she had that concept album idea for this record.
And you've worked with so many different people over the years. Is there anyone that surprised you when you were working with them, that a good surprise or bad surprise when you were
Uh,
recording?
yeah, lots of stories there. One of the one of the big surprises I had when I was working with Sinead O'Connor, and we're doing an album called "I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got," and we that album contained the single "Nothing Compares to You," which is, as you know, is a big hit. I was surprised when I recorded that song because we had the track already, and it was, everything was done. It's very, very minimalist. There's no bass. I didn't put any bass on it. It's just a drum loop, a live hi hat, and some keyboard strings. Right? It's a really simple track. When she came in one day and said, "I want to," she didn't like studio, so she'd only come in like absolute minimum time. She said, "I want to do a vocal on Nothing Compares to You." So I put up my favorite mic, which I use for most of the artists I work with, and which always sounds great. It's AKG 4 and 4B ULS, and she nailed. What surprised me is she just sang the song all the way through without stopping, and then she said, "I want to do a double track." She double tracked it perfectly. And so that song, which turned out to be one of the biggest hits ever, was recorded as a one take vocal. So that's pretty surprising. That doesn't happen very often. It only happens once. On one other occasion in my recording career was a lady called Alison Moyer. I made a record with her, which turned out it's called "That Old Devil Called Love." And that record took a day and a quarter to make. It's the quickest record I've ever made, and it was #1 for like 5 weeks in the UK. And that was another one take vocal. So sometimes stuff happens really quick. You just got to capture it, and then sometimes you labor and labor over something, take months and months to do it, and it's not really happening. The soul's not in it. So it's really a question of capturing stuff.
And Nothing Compares to You, as you mentioned, is one of the biggest hits, period. I mean, any genre, any period of time, one of the
Yeah.
biggest if there is. How did that feel for you when that happened? I mean, were you expecting? I mean, I'm sure you were
No.
expecting it to be a good song that people would like, but did you expect it to be huge?
Well, when I heard the original version, which is done by Prince, I actually said I don't think it's even worth doing. It's not going to be a hit because it wasn't arranged properly. So I was telling you earlier, arranging is everything. So changing a few chords in the structure with the same melody and the groove is like a swing, it's a slow swing groove, that kind of thing, right? Putting the right groove and changing the right chords underneath the given melody can like make the difference between a hit and a miss. But however, having said that, you never really know what you're doing is going to be a hit. Sometimes it feels like a hit. You mix it, and you're listening back in the studio with the band, and you think this is going to like knock everyone out, and nothing happens. So it's actually much bigger than having a great record or a great song. It's also the whole machinery behind it that actually creates the hit. Like Nothing Compares to You was failing in the British charts. Came out, went to 42, and then the BBC, who had all the control in those days, said we don't think it's a hit. So they started not playing it, started going out of the charts. Sinead went over to Paris with a video team and made a wonderful video, which is like great performance in the cemetery of Montparnasse. And she was like crying on the video. It was really good because the song triggered memories of her grandmother, who was really the only person that was really nice to her when she was a kid. So now that performance just shot the whole song, you know, like it just went ballistic. So you can't tell what you're working on is actually going to be a hit or not. I've been surprised many times when you know I've done stuff that I think this is certainly going to be a hit, and it wasn't. And then stuff is like, oh, it only took a day and a quarter to make, you know, probably won't come to anything, but bang, there goes, it's a huge hit. So it's really kind of it's very down to the machinery around the project.
And I wanted to ask you about your very long partnership with Buffy Sainte-Marie, because the albums, when I listened to the ones from that you started working on, Coincidences and Likely Stories on, and
Yeah,
you know, a lot of the previous songs that she had done were re-recorded onto those ones, and they're so much, I think, better than the original. The originals are great, but I mean, they're just fantastic when I hear like It's My Way or Starwalker, any of those done on
yeah,
those ones. It's just like 10 times better than what was originally done, and it's
mm.
just so different. So I'm just wondering, you know, do you remember anything about that? Whose idea was it to, you know, bring back all these songs and to change them?
I was very much Buffy's idea of this. Yes, the reason they sound better is because because I was really tuned into what Buffy wanted. We got on really, really well, and so she wasn't struggling to try and get around people's egos, like quite often happens in studios. You know, I'm extremely patient, and I never pressurize the artist. It's always about the artist for me. You know, it's a creative energy that comes through. You mustn't get in the way of it. It's really important. And I've got lots of stories about that. But Buffy wanted to redo some of those old hits, but Starwalker, for instance, it's interesting because I was really excited when we did Starwalker because I thought we found a new genre, which is like indigenous music done to rock. Right, this is way back. This is in '92, and but the record label, didn't really like it. They said, "Oh, she's a folk singer. She shouldn't be doing like indigenous music." You know, so they didn't really see it. But me and Buffy just like stood our ground and got it on the record. And for me, it's one of the most interesting tracks on Coincidence because it's got this, it's like native groove, but with this like rock and a great song, great lyrics thrown in. So it's so the reason that Buffy's records sounded good because we're using much better technology than they had anyway. But also, I think she had she took her a long time to find the right producer. And when she found me, we got on like a house on fire, and she's complimented me many times. She said I've got the patience of an angel and stuff like that. So she's really, and that's because I'm not go all the way and tell you when I'm producing stuff. I just let it. I just say this is going to happen or it isn't going to happen. I'm not going to put any pressure on anybody about this. Let's make it treat it as a creative flow rather than a directed flow. You have to learn to get out of the way of creativity. It's a force from another much higher place than your little, your simple brain. It's coming from the universe and it's coming through people. And most of the people I work with have admitted that their songs, they don't even write their songs; they come through them, they channel them. So that's the same with producing. You allow the process to channel. A good record, a good idea, usually doesn't even need producing; it carries itself. But obviously, you've got to have the technique to make it happen.
And when you're kind of doing your own thing, writing your own songs, and that is it always just kind of like it just hits you and you come out with a song, or do you ever is there ever like a song that you just can't seem to get right and it takes weeks, months,
Yeah,
years?
yeah, it's a good question. Uh, well, nobody's ever asked me that. There's a song called Freedom, which came out on an album with the same title when I was living in Paris. Now that song, I wrote that when I was like 22 on a piano, living in London. I was kind of just I was homeless for the first few years. I ran away from home. It's another story, but when I finally got a place to live, I had the piano, and it just Freedom came out, and it was a really great song, but I never knew. It stuck with me for years. I didn't know how to do it. And then one night I was sitting in my studio in Paris, and it just came to me the way to do the song, and so it's happened. But I've had a lot of very strong epiphanies in my life, like spiritual experiences through traveling the world, a lot working with different cultures and everything. And when I came back from India once, I had a major breakthrough in awareness, consciousness, and that was like back in 2009. I've never had to try and write songs since then. They just come to me in dreams. It's the most extraordinary thing. I'm asleep. I'm hearing somebody on stage singing something, words, music, sometimes even a video. So they're all there in my dream. And I wake up and I think I've still got it in me. And I think that's amazing. I've got to go and record this. The first thing is it somebody's? I'm repeating something I've heard, but it's not. So what I do is grab my voice memo because I don't want to be plugging in my studio at 4 in the morning, making a noise. Get a voice memo and a quiet guitar. Use this like go down thing here. It's a nice quiet electroacoustic instrument. The same one Sting uses, funny enough. And I record the song like that, and then I turn off the phone, and go back to sleep. And a lot of big songwriters work that way. It's interesting. Buffy does. I told her about this, and she said, "Yeah, they're gifts. When you're hearing something in a dream, it's a gift. And if you don't grab it, someone else will get it." She said. Just yeah, that's the way it works. It's magic. Of course, you can write songs from your head, and I've done that for like library music, where I've been asked to do, a punk album, and then I have to put myself in a punk state of mind to get to do it, or a death metal album. But that's when I was doing stuff with my son for like library companies, like for satellite music and stuff. I try to avoid doing that sort of stuff now because I find it a little bit. I find it feels like prostitution to me. For me, music's a sacred thing. So.
And I read that you work with like Talking Heads and Quincy Jones.
Yeah.
What did you specifically work on? Like what era for Talking Heads and also
Talking Heads asked me to come in and engineer. This is my engineering days when I was living in London. They're working on a song called Nothing But Flowers, and they asked me if I'd come in and record it, and just I didn't play on it, but I recorded all the instruments and everything. So I had a limited thing with them, just one track really. But the other what's the other artist you mentioned?
Quincy Jones.
Oh yeah, Quincy Jones. That was I wrote a song called "Kiss of Life" for an artist called Wayne Hernandez. He's a black singer that was really soul. It sounded like Seal. Remember him? It's that kind of level of artist. But the song didn't really get released on his record. But there's a guy that I knew, my co-writer on that song. I wrote it with Barry Blue, and he knew somebody at Michael Jackson's kind of department, Rod Temperton. And I knew Rod too, actually. I used to play in Germany with him before he got really famous. He wrote all the tracks on Thriller. He died recently, but he's super successful. Anyway, Rod heard Kiss of Life, and they decided to play it to Sinéad O'Connor, who's Michael Jackson's backing singer. And they just signed a deal with Rod and Quincy producing her debut album. And they decided they picked my song as the title track of the album. So the album's called Kiss of Life. and the song's called Kiss of Life. So, and Quincy phoned me up one day and asked me what sounds I used on the demo because he loved it. So I gave him a rundown of all the keyboard sounds I use and everything. So that's quite a compliment for a producer of his level to phone me up and ask advice on how to get it sounds.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy to think about it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
The tracks out on. If you go to YouTube and go Sinéad O'Connor, Kiss of Life, you can hear it. It's that they literally copied everything I did. It sounds just like my demo. So they put some horns on it, which I didn't do.
and you had, I believe it was your own song. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you sang on Where Do We Go From Here? Like that's your song.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Uh,
me. Yeah.
for the album One Voice, One Love. Was this was that kind of a shock at all to you to be on that album? Because had you
Mm.
recorded a bunch up to that point,
I
like
got.
solo?
I can tell you the story behind that. I did an album called Men from the Sky, which is inspired by the Columbus, bumping into the indigenous people story, and I wanted to do a whole world music album because I've been working with Peter Gabriel and I was really into that, and I've been traveling the world a lot. So I did this album called Men from the Sky. Uh, there's a chap called Ed Bicknell. He was the manager of Dire Straits. Dire Straits group. Mark Knopfler on guitar. Ed phoned me up and said, "I just heard your album, Men from the Sky." He said it's the best album I've heard in 7 years. So I was like really, impressed by that, very touched. And he said, "Come and see me in my office." There's an office in Central London. So I trucked over there, and we're talking about this and that and the tracks and how I did it and everything. And he said, do you want a record deal?" I said, "Yeah, of course." So he picked up the phoned Polydor Records and got me a deal just by calling them without them even hearing my stuff because he was so influential. And then so they picked the single off the album was called "Where Do We Go From Here," and they put it on a compilation to raise money for Sudan, for Care International charity. And so I was like alongside all these like mega artists, Queen and Tears for Fears, Seal, Peter Gabriel, Bob Marley, just everybody, and Chris Birkett, it's quite a good moment. Yeah.
And has there ever been, when you look back on your entire career up to this point, is there something that stands out to you as your proudest achievement?
It's a good question because in fact everything I feel that I'm evolving all the time. So every new thing I do is kind of a step on from something else. So I'm always proud of the latest thing I've done. So if you listen to the new album, you go to Bandcamp, you can hear the whole thing if you want to. Choose My Guitar. You'll hear some really, really interesting production ideas. Some of it's really minimalistic. It's literally just a guitar, acoustic guitar, and some light percussion. Like a song called "Me and You." It's hardly anything on it, and so I'm very into minimalistic stuff. And I'm quite proud of the new album. Actually, if you mentioned the word pride, I'm sort of. I wouldn't like to say. I don't like to use the word proud because it's a bit of an egocentric term. I like to use the word. I'm full of gratitude for having been given those songs on the record, but also having the ability to manifest them, which a lot of people don't. People get great ideas all the time, but they don't know how to make them happen. But I do because I've been making records all my life. So I feel fortunate and grateful for that.
And I think that's great for an artist, to always be excited about what the new thing, that really
Yeah,
shows. It really shows that they're really into it, which I think
yeah,
is great, not relying on your past accomplishments and really diving into what you're doing.
precisely. Yeah, I feel like I'm at the beginning of my career actually, because I put my songs and my singing and my performing on the back burner for many years because I was producing so many people. And I started off as an artist, playing with Rufus Thomas and some huge names like that. And then I joined Love Affair. I was one of a huge successful pop band in England. Now I've met Tony Visconti, but after I met Tony, he produced 2 albums for my band. He produces David Bowie and Mark Bolan, the Moody Blues. He's a big producer. He actually became my mentor. I was fascinated on how he got sounds. So it's probably mostly because of him that I gravitated more towards studio and started moving away from playing live and singing, playing my guitar. So I got kind of dragged into that, and then I became successful. So it was really difficult. I was riding the wave, but I was always writing songs. So all this stuff has got to come out now. I've got so much stuff. And of course now I've got a different perspective on how to produce things. It's very exciting. I've even got stuff from my debut album, Meant from the Sky. I've been putting it into Pro Tools and syncing it up, and then just enhancing the whole thing, which I couldn't do on analog tape. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you hear a song called "We Are Not the Only Ones." Compare that to you'll find that on the web as on Men from the Sky album. We're Not the Only Ones. It's about extraterrestrials, something I'm fascinated in. But if you hear the new version I've done on YouTube, you would see the difference in the sound. It's amazing. So I'm very excited. I've got these great tools to work with. I can literally do anything.
And is that something that you would, want to do on like a kind of a larger scale, like look at, that first album specifically, but go back and remaster your
Yeah.
previous work?
Yeah, because I was in the studio so much, I didn't really spend the time necessary to promote my music. So like Men from the Sky, although it was released by Polydor and we got some good coverage. While that was happening, I was building a recording studio in a 32-room chateau in the south of France, which I brought from the Sinéad O'Connor royalties. So I wanted to get out of London because my kids were growing up and I wasn't seeing them. I was working all the time, 48 hours a day sometimes, and I wanted to get out. So I actually, instead of staying in London and I just got this huge connection with Ed Bicknell, who loved my record. And I should have, in retrospect, I should have just got a band together around me and then started promoting the music. Instead, I went to south of France and built a studio. But I had to because I had a huge crisis. My kids were growing up and I was absent all the time. And I didn't want that to happen. So I literally stopped my career as an artist in order to see be a family man. I don't regret doing that because it came out really well. So it's one of those choices you have to make in life. But now I'm in Canada. People are really nice here, and they really like my music. Did a great show at the Hughes Room on Saturday. Fantastic audience. The audience just loved it. Got 2 encores. So that's that's just me on my own. So a couple of Sherry Town came up and sang some did some flute for me. She plays flute on my Free Spirits project. It's another project I've got going at the moment. And then Lisa Hart, who's a great female rock singer, she came out and did some backing vocals. But considering it's just almost a one-man show, that went down really well.
And is that something that you are excited about doing, about getting out there and performing?
No, absolutely. This is what I was put on this planet to do. I've just been sidetracked a lot, but I'm really determined now. And for me, I don't care about age. I mean, it's really down to your energy. And some people do their best work when they're, the pop business doesn't recognize talent above the age of 20. Unfortunately, they seem to, especially in the UK, they literally signing fetuses out of the womb. It's like ridiculous. If you're over 18, they just say, "Oh, let's laugh at you. Forget it. You can't do music," which is very, very destructive because people write their best works when they're 60, 70, 80 years old. They come up with they've got a lifetime of experience to draw on. And why should music all just be about teenager angst? Yeah, that's the way I feel right now. I'm really happy to have I'm in really good condition. I've got tons of energy, got tons of experience, and a lot of music to play people. A lot of stuff. It's literally it's in the thousands of songs I have ready to release. So I'm just very excited at the moment, and I think I'm in the right country to do it. So
And so for you, there's no signs of slowing down. You're,
no, I'm speeding up
going
actually.
full steam ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm actually speeding up. I'm more efficient now than I've ever been. It's time is, as you know, time is an illusion anyway. You can spend, if you're having a good time, it seems to like go really quick. If you're having a bad time, things sort of drag on. It's the same time, but it's a different perception, right? So I don't have time as a factor in whatever I'm doing. For me, it's really depends on. Uh, I believe that we're spiritual beings in material bodies here to experience life as a human. But the thing, what's experiencing life is an eternal, immortal thing, which is the real you, and that is not subject to time. So I don't have a problem with time. I would have just the bottom of my bucket list is die on stage in the middle of a guitar solo, and that's what I'll do hopefully. So while you got a breath, while you can breathe, you should do everything you can to be creative and follow your passion.
So what's next for you? Because I know that you're still promoting this current album, but
Yeah,
do you already have creative plans to follow up,
yeah.
after?
Oh yeah, I've got another album coming out next year called New Hits from the '80s. The it's and that's songs that I wrote quite a long time ago, but I'm going to do them in a really modern way. And they're all hit records. Well, they should have been, but they weren't ever released. But they're going to be released now. And I've got three projects. I've got me, Chris Birkett. I've got the Happy Campers, which is if you look on the web, you'll see some great stuff. Go to my YouTube channel. There's a song called "Tweet Me Right," which is about cell phone addiction. And we had last year we released a record called "Icky Cottage Blues." That's a project with me and my wife. And another project I'm really excited about is the Free Spirits. That's my band with the flute player Sherry Talon, and she plays keyboard, flute, and sings. And that stuff is my alter ego. In other words, it's stuff that I've always wanted to do, and it's not. I don't. There's no consideration to it being whether it's commercial or not. It's a pure joy project. So, and the only thing I can compare it to, if you know anything about the Brit band called Yes, that's what's most of the inspiration for the Free Spirits comes from that band. One of my favorite bands ever.
So do you kind of feel now at this point in your career that you don't have any limitations on what you can do? That
I just wish that. Well, to be quite honest, I wish I had a couple more arms because I'm mostly instrumentalist. I wish I had I was like Shiva, or I was had like 5 arms and legs, and because I like to play. I love to play everything. I play really good drums. I'm a really good bass player, but I can't do all that stuff on stage. It's so frustrating. So I do playback mixes on some of my songs. On Saturday at the Hughes Room, I did half the show pure acoustic, just me with an acoustic guitar. The second half I did me on electric, but with really great backing track mixes, which is leaving me off my voice, and everything was live from me, guitar and voice, but everything else that came to the speakers was recorded at my studio, and it sounded really good. The whole place was jumping. The last 3 songs, everybody was dancing. It was amazing. So that's what I'm going to do. The Free Spirits as the duo. The Happy Campers is just me and my wife. But when we get this going, if we do a tour, we probably get a bunch of musicians because they're that kind of song. There's great songs. One's called "Big Fan of Myself," which is I played that song at the end of my show on Saturday, and everybody just loves it. It's about feeling good about yourself. It's really catchy. So that's gonna. I've got 3 projects going, and I'm really excited about all of them. But for now, I'm really focused on the She's My Guitar project.
And what do you kind of hope people, when they listen to She's My Guitar, what do you hope that they're kind of gonna get from it? Is there something that you want them to take away, maybe about you personally, about what the music is about?
Yeah, I want them to. I want people to realize that instruments have melodies in them. That's what's fascinating. So the guitar, the title track, "She's My Guitar," was born because somebody brought a guitar over to me from the acoustic guitar project. It's an international project. This guitar travels all around the world. And it happened to be in Toronto, so they picked me to give the guitar to. And I kept it for a week. And the idea was to write one song and perform it live on video within that week. I had the song. The song came out of the guitar literally itself in 10 minutes. I had the song done, and I was ready to do it. I did it on camera, and then the song. I really liked it. So I'd like people, when they hear that song, to realize that instruments actually have music in them. You just got to listen for it, which is mysterious, but it's magical. And the other thing about this album is a lot of songs which are there's Mystery, a song called Mystery, which everybody seems to really like. And it's about the question of what is love, because most people think love is desire, wanting. But that's not love, that's taking. It's wanting something, it's the ego, right? For me, the real definition of love is giving. If you want to give a person to be really happy, or you want to give them the best, you make them feel as good as you can, that is more like, that's the true love. That's unconditional love. You're not asking for anything in return. You just want the well-being of another human being. And it doesn't have to be sexual or anything. It's pure love. I don't think is related to sex. I think sex is just pleasure and all that stuff. So, but it's and the desire for another person is not love. It's just desire. The energy is completely different. I want that person. I think she's really attractive. I want her. Or I want that cake, or I want that cup of coffee, or whatever. It's all wanting. It's the ego, right? And that's I love coffee. You don't really love coffee. You can't love coffee because it's an inanimate thing. You can go to a coffee plant maybe in Africa and just be really respectful to it and say, thank you for giving me your beans. That could be more, more of an aspect of real love. But real love is giving, and desire is taking. And that's what I'm saying in The Mystery of Love, which is one of the songs on the album. So the album is full of insights. So it's really rich in insights, and you think, even just if you listen to the lyrics, you'll get a lot from it.
And just to close things off, if you could, go back to your younger self when you were starting out, what would you tell yourself? A piece of advice, something that you could tell yourself when you were starting out in the industry?
I think I'd tell myself I don't have any regrets. I think everything I've done is I was meant to do, and I think it's the case with just about everybody. So I would. The only thing I'd say is learn. One thing I've had a problem with, and still do, learn how to say no sometimes, because I spent a lot of my life really trying to please people and wanting to be liked, because I didn't have any proper childhood. My mother and father broke up when I was 4, so I didn't grow up in an atmosphere of love, family love. So I've been looking for that all my life, to be liked by people. And there's a lot of artists have that in them, same as Sinead. They want to be liked, and that's why they have that burning desire to do things, be appreciated. So if you're looking back in retrospect, that's one thing I would, like to put in place in my next cycle. If I decide to stay on this planet, which I probably won't, I've got other plans, but if I did decide to reincarnate, I would actually work on that, the ability to say no, not in a negative way, but just in a way of creating a boundary for yourself, which helps you. Because I don't think you can help anybody else until you really learn how to help yourself. The song "Big Fan of Myself" states that emphatically. You can't practice love on another person until you find a way to love yourself. And I don't mean egocentric, and am I handsome, looking at me in the mirror, kind of that's not love, that's something else. But it's appreciating that, taking a breath in, breathe in slowly and feel the energy, the light coming into your body, and be full of gratitude for just being alive. That's what I mean by liking yourself.
Well, I appreciate you doing this interview. You have so much insight into not just the industry, but just music, how it comes about.
How it works.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I find it's very interesting to hear.
Well, I could talk to you all for days about this. I've got so much to say about it, but let's do another podcast, later on, and expand it a little bit more.
Yeah, that I would 100% be open to that. That'd be great.
Cool. Let's stay in touch. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to the new project you were telling me about, going back to the songs you wrote in the 80s that were never recorded.
Yeah.
That just sounds
New hits. New hits
I'm
from
so
the 80s.
curious.
Yeah, well, the 80s music seems to be coming back, so it's good timing.
Yeah.
But I've got all the stuff. It's all done. I just have to mix it and finish it, details. But I'm not going to put that out until I've really worked on this record. I don't want to confuse people. Right?
Yeah.
But go to Bandcamp and have a listen to the whole album if you haven't done that already. I think you'll appreciate it. After talking to me, you'll probably understand it a lot more.
Yeah, more insight into it.
Yeah, I don't like Spotify very much. My stuff's on there because it has to be, but I don't appreciate the way they treat artists. So I tend to send people to Bandcamp because you can preview the track, but then if you like it, you can actually help the artist out and buy it. So and it's quite easy. So I like that. Spotify don't pay; they pay nanocents for streams. You can have 10 million streams, and they might send you a check for $10 if you're lucky. So I don't think that's fair to artists to do that. So I don't use that. I don't talk about that. I don't use that platform very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been really nice talking to you. So